Schneider Electric is proud to bring this podcast to you. Schneider's mission is to be the customer's digital partner for sustainability and efficiency, and bringing insights such as you are about to hear helps further that mission.
My name is Jo Taranto and I'm joined today by Paul McPhee, Process Technology Manager at Urban Utilities, and Associate Professor Shihu Hu from the University of Queensland. And today we're talking about enhancing sludge digestion performance. Welcome, Paul and Shihu.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to be here.
Paul, what are the pressures on a utility provider with a growing population like Southeast Queensland?
Some of the challenges we've got at the moment, of course, are population growth, growth in the catchments. We've also got the changing regulations with specifically around sludge management that have changed recently and changed that costing landscape for us a fair bit. And we've also got movements towards net zero. So you see trade waste companies not looking to send stuff to landfill. They're more looking for alternatives. How can they send their high strength waste to digestion processes so we can try and harness some energy and reduce those volumes for them.
So all of those have put, I guess, a new lens on sludge management. Has that been the catalyst for working with Shihu at the University of Queensland? Yeah,
it has. Yep. We're always interested in doing more with less or more with what we've got. And that's when we talk to the experts who like research better ways to run our equipment, better things to deliver value for the community.
So Shihu, what sort of work do you do? Is your job all about finding better ways to do, manage things like sludge?
Yeah. So at UQ, I and my colleague, we work on a different aspect for the water technologies, but my research area focus on the so-called next generation wastewater treatment technology, specifically look at the things that we will need in 5 or 10 years' time or a bit longer. So the one on the horizon. And enhancing sludge digestion is a research area that attract a lot of attention because obviously not only urban utility, many water utility in Australia would need this. Population growth is a universal phenomenon, not only just Queensland, and the biggest one also the national sort of a paradigm shift of the organic waste management. So I think nationally they want to reduce the organic waste to landfill by at least 50% or something by 2030. So there is a huge pressure to increase the digestion capability, capacity around the nation.
And obviously, as someone who's not across all of the details of how this works, can you give us a really high-level understanding of the sort of work you've been doing around aerobic digestion?
So the current anaerobic digestion is basically put the sludge into it, and then they stay there for 15 days, and it comes out stabilized and pathogen killed and reach certain standards. And what we're trying to do is just intensify the process. And what we did is putting some plastic carrier in it to grow the bug we want as a biofilm on this carrier, and that's why so we call it a moving bed biofilm reactor, therefore MBBR. And what it does is it keeps the useful bug like we want and keep them stay in the reactor instead of being washed out of the reactor. And then this would allow you to just push more sludge through more quicker, and therefore intensification give you more capacity to deal more sludge.
And so when Shihu comes to you, Paul, and says, look, we can maybe speed this up by 5 times and you can process 5 times as much, is that an exciting opportunity? And can you tell us about the pilot that you've embarked on?
Yeah, the ability to speed things up and get higher rates of treatment is really exciting because usually what that can do is either save not building a smaller tank. So when we're talking about a big facility, these can be millions upon millions of dollars worth of tankage, or it opens up other opportunities where the rate becomes fast enough and the volumes become small enough that you can utilise a tank you've already got, which is a real win. That's reuse an old piece of infrastructure, repurpose it, bring it up to a higher level. So one of the advantages of moving off the lab desktop testing, which the university initially does, and moving to pilot situation like we've now got, is we can bring that system out and run it next to our real anaerobic digesters, which is what we're doing now. And great opportunity to keep it on fresh, warm sludge that's genuinely was in a tank 30 seconds earlier versus when you're at a lab scale or benchtop scale. Sometimes that's sludge you've collected from site and brought across the lab, or even driven to a lab and fed into your digesters intermittently. So it's a great next step for working how it goes.
And what are the plans for that pilot? Is it just at one of your treatment plants or a number?
It's only on one at the moment. And if we look at it, as much as Urban Utilities we've got a lot of treatment plants, we've got 26 all up, we've really only got potentially 3 treatment plants that would use this. And 2 of those plants, the 2 biggest, they'll cater for 1.2 million population. So whilst I've gone from 26 down to 2 possible plants there, they actually cater for a really large base of our population that we service. And there's great efficiencies in that. If we were to intensify a big facility like that, is the benefits are highest. Yeah.
And so, Shihu, how long would you need to run the pilot to get the data that you need to verify what you think this might be able to do?
Depend on whether or not there's a lot of surprise for us. If everything goes smoothly, typically the pilot test can last for 1 to 2 years to allow you to trace the different to try different, we call it the operational envelope, but a group of different parameters. What the system can handle, how fast it can go, and what kind of a temperature they can tolerate. A lot of this operational envelope, and so even the thing goes smoothly, it will still take 1 or 2 years. And what we have been doing a lot of pilot study with Urban Utilities, and over the years, and you always have surprise from pilot studies. Sometimes, occasionally, you get a nice surprise, better than what you thought. But a lot of time, there are the factors that we did not. There are the factors that won't be affected for laboratory studies. And you have to deal with this. So pilot studies is not easy, and actually, I probably should take opportunity to thank the utility to give us this opportunity to test in the real optional conditions, next to the digesters, which is a pretty rare case.
It's also good when we're running a pilot. We've found from other pilots and research we've done, not only this one, but others, sometimes we learn stuff as a utility, some interesting things. And it's not only if in operations we might apply some things straight away, just some learnings, or because the university's focusing hard on the sludge that's coming out of our digesters, they may give us some insights because they're monitoring beyond the level that we would normally in an operating budget monitor. It provides great opportunities in that respect.
You're listening to the Australian Water Association podcast series, and I'm speaking with Paul McPhee from Urban Utilities and Shihu Hu from the University of Queensland. You talked about, Paul, that there are some limitations or potentially parameters where you would use the type of technology that Shihu's been studying. Shihu, what kind of limitations do you think this processing has at the moment, or where is it optimal?
Well, again, we could probably go back to my previous comments on different optional parameters, and then currently it's still in the R&D phase. So if you're familiar with the audience, are familiar with the TRL level terminology, like technology readiness level, I would say the TRL for the current technology is probably around 3, 4 to 5, and what we want is increase that TRL to probably 7 above, which means they will be operating in the real operational conditions. So, and then what is the difference between these 2 TRL level? Then real operational condition means you can't control temperature anymore because you just have to rely on whatever you have. But in university laboratory, our lab is aircon controlled. It's always 22, for instance. And you can't control your inoculum or whatever you feed into your digester anymore. In laboratory, we have one batch of feed, and we can use exactly the same thing, feed the reactor for a month or something like that. And for full scale, you can't do that. Like whatever you have, you just have to handle it. And for instance, they receive some organic food waste from some trade waste collecting companies. And the food waste can have different features, different characteristics. They might have something not necessarily the anaerobic digester would like, or our reactor would like. And honestly, well, urban utility probably you would know it easier. Like when you have large, suddenly some food waste coming in, and what is the potential impact to our system? And we would like to know that. So you have to test them in realistic condition. So before we can say this one indeed can be adopted. Yeah, I would say it's still in R&D phase. Need another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, not even not only the difference in loads that come in through that organic waste being delivered to site, but there's just the seasonality of a treatment plant that they get to experience. Holidays, long weekends, Christmas holidays are a big one. We see a very big change in luggage points catchment because it services the CBD. When Christmas holidays are on, everyone tends to leave. And I imagine all the utilities are at holiday destinations, see everyone show up at their holiday destinations. But that does change the way a digestion system, even though a digester they're very big tanks and they have a long solids retention time, which is how long the sludge is in there. It's typically for us, 22 days. You do see some changes. That the great thing about running an on-site pilot for a year or two is you get to run through those cycles, the seasonality, and see how it responds and how it performs for that.
So if the pilot all goes well and you have a couple of years of good data sets and you get your technology readiness level to a point where you feel it's ready to go, Shihu, what would the next phase be for this type of research?
The next phase actually will be go to the utilities, because at the universities, researchers, the far will go would be pilot scale. And after that, it would be for urban utility. I guess Paul can answer that. But I would imagine they probably want to do some full scale design to some of their plants. And at the same time, we will present all this outcome in conference, in papers, and other utilities may see that and say they may want to adopt that. But that will be up to the utilities. Yeah.
What about you, Paul? What would you like to see happen next if all goes well?
It's an interesting... So we've done a lot of research with the university. Some stuff we just grab and do, yeah? And the reason we can grab and do it is it actually doesn't need much of a change. We've learnt some really interesting things and we go try them. This is one of those solutions that would probably require a reasonable reconfiguration on the plant. So as much as I'd say grab and do, it would be great. We'd probably have to go through some realistically feasibility investigations. So the best opportunity is, can we repurpose a tank? That's the best, because you're not pouring concrete. You're not setting off massive civil infrastructure project. But the reality is we'd use that data to feed into the planning for the forward horizon on how we're going to deal with the sludge management that's coming. That's the way it would feed. And for some sites, it might stack up real nicely because there's probably a bunch of co-benefits that occur. And for some sites, it might not. And we just got to see what the final results are ultimately and where to invest, hopefully, and not spend too much. Yeah, we're always chasing bang for buck, which is the goal. And that's why intensification things like Shihu's been working on and finding that the MBBR lets that system go from 15-day sludge retention time, which is a tank that's holding it for 15 days, to the MBBR to 3. That's where that benefit kicks in. It makes it much more viable for utilities to implement.
I've been speaking with Paul McPhee, Process Technology Manager at Urban Utilities, and Associate Professor Shihu Hu from the University of Queensland. Thank you, Paul and Shihu.
Yep, thanks. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure.